guest is praising the president's actions, saying the United States of America is safer today because of the leadership of President Donald J. Trump. Here with us now is Republican Congressman Randy Fine from Florida. He is a member of the Foreign Affairs as well as the Education and the Workforce Committees. Congressman, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I read your tweet, but again, your response to these U.S. strikes against Venezuela and the capture of Maduro.
Well, Maduro was an illegitimate leader who, as your previous reporter pointed out, lost the election. And he was running a drug cartel, flooding America with drugs that were killing Americans. As a result, we have hundreds of thousands of Venezuelan refugees that are in our country. So this was a huge win for the United States, completely justified. And it was an extraordinary outcome because, like in Iran, no American soldiers were hurt. And we in a very targeted way, eliminated a real problem for the United States. So a huge win for President Trump, and I'm so grateful to our American military.
And I'm glad you're mentioning that, one, a lot of our soldiers weren't hurt. Do you have any concerns that this could lead the U.S. into war with Venezuela, especially if they retaliate in the next few days?
No, because I'm hopeful that the people who actually won the last election will now be able to take power. We did not remove a leader who was honestly won an election. That is something I think everyone agrees on. Nicolas Maduro was the illegitimate leader of the country. Hopefully the legitimate leader of the country now takes power, and we can see what happened in Venezuela become what happened in Panama. Panama, we took out a dictator a number of decades ago, and Panama is now a great ally of the United States that we work with every day. This should be a huge win, not only for the United States, but for South and Central America. And I think everyone is going to react well to it, except, I guess, for Democrats who support drug dealers.
I'm glad you did mention the human rights violations in Venezuela, just to make our viewers aware if they weren't. John Bolton, Ambassador Bolton, said something very interesting. Maduro's gone, but the administration remains in place. With that said, is the U.S. prepared for possible retaliation?
Well, I don't think they're going to be stupid enough to try. I mean, we were able to go in, dismantle their air defenses, take Maduro and his wife without any casualties. I think they know that if they were to respond in any way, shape, or form, that the consequences would be severe. This man was a drug dealer. He allowed Muslim terrorists with Hezbollah to operate in his own country. Just a truly horrible actor in this part of the world. The biggest winners of today are the Venezuelan people, who can now have the government they wanted take over and now can become part of Western civilization and the Western world. It's a big win for them.
Yeah, because the past few years under Maduro, there were so many economic crises and unrest in Venezuela. As a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Congressman, what is the ultimate end game for the U.S. when it comes to Venezuela?
Well, I think it's not complicated. It is the democratically elected government takes over. They become a successful Western government like so many others in our hemisphere, and they rejoin the community of nations that are down here. I think the also end game is this isolates other rogue regimes like Cuba, which similarly hurt their people. But I think for Venezuela, this is now an extraordinary opportunity to take advantage of their incredible oil resources, get out of the drug business, get out of the terrorism business, and become the ally to America that we want them to be.
Prior to the strikes, many lawmakers, Republicans as well as Democrats, argue that President Trump needs congressional authorization to attack Venezuela. Before these strikes, Trump repeatedly said he does not. Now, this morning, several Democrats are calling these strikes illegal. And I want to pose the question to you, sir. Does Trump need authorization from Congress to carry out these strikes? Is he acting within his presidential powers?
Absolutely. Look, Democrats will oppose President Trump no matter what he does. I think it's sad and I think it's pathetic, to be honest. This was not the legitimate leader of Venezuela. This was a drug dealer and a drug cartel, no different than any other. This was a targeted law enforcement action to go and get a bad guy and put him on trial. The president didn't declare war on Venezuela. As Marco Rubio has said, this is it. They did what needed to be done and it is over. So we didn't need to do anything. And by the way, do you announce to the criminal that you're coming to arrest them before you go? I don't think so. So the Trump derangement syndrome on display this morning is disgusting, and I think everyone should be congratulating the president and the troops for getting the job done here.
Certainly our troops. We've had a lot of military members who said this operation was complex and it was carried out brilliantly. Reportedly, neither House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries nor the House Armed Services Committee got a heads up about these strikes. Have you heard from House Speaker Johnson if he was notified before these strikes were conducted?
I haven't, and I hope the president didn't tell them because they would go and blab and run their mouths. So the way that you keep a secret is you don't tell people about it. This isn't an ongoing multi-day, multi-month, multi-year armed conflict. This was over before most of us woke up this morning. Started after we went to bed. It was over before we got up. And you don't tell the criminal that you're coming to arrest them. So I think the president did the right thing. He was completely justified. And yet again, President Trump was right. All the naysayers went nuts about Iran. That was a huge success. They're going to go nuts about this, but this was a huge success as well. Drug dealers and terrorists have been arrested today. That's something we should all be very happy about.
No surprise here. This morning, adversaries like Russia and Iran, along with a few other countries, are condemning America's actions. What does this type of action mean for our standing globally?
Well, it makes them nervous, and that's good. Look, the president has said that if Iran goes and slaughters protesters that are protesting the Muslim terror regime, he'll have their backs. After what happened last night, they're thinking he really does mean that. And obviously, other rogue actors like Russia want a weak America. Well, under President Trump, America is back. We're flexing our muscle to bring peace to the world, peace through strength. And so, of course, you're going to see the Iranians and the Russians and probably the Chinese all complain about it, but the fact of the matter is this was the right thing to do to protect American lives. We do not need boatloads of cocaine laced with fentanyl coming into our country and killing our citizens.
Congressman, we are learning that airlines have canceled flights throughout the Caribbean as a result of these strikes. Your message to stranded Americans who may be affected?
I'd give it a day or two. I mean, there was just a big military strike. And what I saw was it was flights in and out of Venezuela, not so much the other places. I would give it a day or two, see what happens, stay in touch with the U.S. Embassy and people around the world, and we will see what happens. But I think that we'll be okay. I think people just need to give it a day or two. I'm very hopeful that the legitimate government of Venezuela will take power and everything will go back to the way it ought to be.
Have any of your constituents reached out to you? I know it's early in the morning, but just curious.
No, they haven't, because, I woke up this morning to a flurry of text messages from official and unofficial sources. And no, it's the weekend, it's the morning, and I haven't heard from folks yet today. I'm sure that will change throughout the day.
One of our biggest allies, the UK, immediately announced they are not involved in any way in the strike of Venezuela. What does that tell you when some of our closest allies are distancing themselves from these latest strikes?
Well, I don't know how close of allies they are anymore. Remember, in the UK, if you criticize Islam, you go to jail. So I don't know how close of an ally these countries are anyway. I think what it shows is we don't need a group project to do what is right in our own backyard. I think the president did the right thing. We didn't need anyone's help, and we went and took action. And I think it was the right thing. I don't know why anyone would distance themselves from an action that took out a drug dealer. I believe a lot of these drugs were going to Europe and killing Europeans as well. But if they want to, run coward, then that's their right to do so.
We're all waiting for the press conference at 11 a.m. with President Trump. What do you want to hear from him, Congressman?
Well, I think he's going to talk about why he did this. I think he will talk about what was accomplished. And I think he will talk about why this is good for America, good for Venezuela and the world. And it will remind the world that with President Trump in charge, America is back in charge, and every country around the world needs to know that.
Just one last question. As recently as yesterday, Maduro was showing his cooperation with the administration. What do you think changed between the Trump administration and the Maduro regime in the last few hours?
Well, my guess is Maduro knew something was coming, and so he said, no, let's work together, not because he actually intended to do that, but to try to stall and delay further action. I don't know the details, but that's what we've seen that these terrorists do. We saw this in Israel and Gaza, where Hamas would say, no, we'll accept the deal just to try to create people from taking action, and then they didn't actually do anything. We're seeing it right now. So I suspect it was an ill-intended method to try to create stall and delay, and the president just wasn't going to put up with it.
Congressman Randy Fine, I believe it's your first time on the show. Thank you so much. We hope you come back. We appreciate your expertise, sir.
Anytime. Thanks.